Okay, so we're all surrounded by, well, stuff. But have you ever really stopped to think about where it all comes from? I don't mean the store you bought it from. I mean the place where it was actually made, designed, and shipped out. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on these hidden hubs of creation. No, seriously, just look around you right now. The device you're watching this on, the chair you're sitting in, that coffee mug on your desk. Where did it all begin? The answer is a little more complex than just a factory. It's something way more organized. And honestly, it's usually hidden in plain sight. And that's where this term comes in, the industrial estate. That's the official name for it. It's basically a planned area zoned specifically for industrial activity. You can think of it like a starter kit for a business. It's got the roads, the power, the water, everything's already there, ready to go. Or hey, here's an even better way to think about it. It's kind of like a shopping mall, but for businesses. Instead of clothing stores and food courts, it's packed with factories, warehouses, and workshops. It's a specialized neighborhood where all the residents are companies. All right, so let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at how they're classified, by what they do and who's in charge. Then we'll check out some really cool modern takes on the idea, peek inside the buildings, and wrap up with why all of this is so important. All right, first things first. Not all industrial estates are created equal. One of the main ways to sort them out is by their function. So what do they actually do? So you've got a few different flavors here. Your general purpose estate is kind of the jack of all trades. It hosts a whole mix of different industries. Then you have special purpose ones, which are for specific groups, like maybe tech startups or a community of artisans. Now, ancillary estates are really interesting. They're built to make parts for one big parent company right next door. Think of all the little factories that supply a massive car plant. And finally, you have functional estates. They're also focused on one thing, like electronics, but it's a bunch of different companies all working in the same field, not just for one big boss. Okay, so that's what they do. But who runs the show? Turns out, who owns and manages the place is another huge way to classify them. Let's take a look at who's pulling the strings. And a lot of the time, the goal of the estate depends on who's in charge. If it's a government-run park, the main goal is usually to boost the whole region's development. If it's private, well, it's all about making a profit. Then you've got cooperatives, where a bunch of entrepreneurs team up to share costs and resources. And finally, municipal estates are run by the local city, and they're usually focused on building up local infrastructure. But here's the thing. Industrial estates aren't some old, dusty idea. They're constantly changing. As our cities get more crowded and we get more serious about the environment, these parks are evolving in some seriously clever ways. So, take one of the biggest problems, space, right? A traditional industrial estate is huge and sprawling, usually way outside the city. But what do you do in a super dense place like Hong Kong or Singapore? You can't build out, so you build up. And that's where the flatted factory estate comes in. It's basically a high-rise for light industry, smack in the middle of a city. Okay, so that solves the space problem. But what about the environmental problem? This next idea is, well, it's just brilliant. It's called an eco-industrial park, and it's a total game changer. The whole concept is built around that old saying, you know the one. One company's trash is another company's treasure. That's literally the business model here. It's a closed-loop system where everything gets used and almost nothing goes to waste. So how does that actually work in the real world? Okay, imagine Company A is a power plant, and it produces a ton of waste heat, right? Normally, that just goes up a smokestack. But here, that waste heat gets piped next door to Company B, which might be a greenhouse, and bam, they use it to grow tomatoes all year round. One company's waste product becomes another's raw material. And the specialized perks don't stop there. You've got nursery estates, which are basically incubators for brand new businesses, giving them cheap space and support to get off the ground. And then there are things like workshop bay estates, which are just collections of small-scale shops, for repairs and other basic engineering services. Okay, so we've been looking at the whole estate, the big picture. But now let's zoom in and look at the actual buildings inside. Because just like the parks, not all warehouses are the same. You'll find all sorts of stuff. Of course, you have the giant warehouse and distribution centers that power all our online shopping. But you also have flex space, which is super cool. It's like a hybrid with a little office up front and a warehouse or workshop in the back. Then there's cold storage for things like food and medicine that have to stay refrigerated, and even high-tech R&D facilities, which are basically specialized labs for science and testing. So we've gone through a ton here, how these places are classified, all the modern and specialized types. But let's zoom back out. What's the bottom line? Why do these spaces actually matter?
Well, it really comes down to this. They're a smart way to organize things. By clustering businesses together, they help them grow and be more efficient. But maybe even more importantly, they act as a buffer. They keep all the noise, the traffic, and the industry part of industry away from where people live. It's about supporting businesses while also protecting communities. And that really brings us to the big question for the future. We've seen how these parks have evolved from simple plots of land to these incredible high-tech, eco-friendly systems. So, as our cities keep growing and technology keeps changing, what do you think the industrial park of tomorrow is going to look like?